So, well, speaking of lessons and things, since we're on the Berkeley campus right now,
Uh-oh. Dun dun dun.
dun, 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 yeah, tell us a little bit about your experiences when you were at Berkeley. Who were some of your favorite
Berkeley?
teachers? Yeah.
First off, Dave Santoro is the man. I love Dave Santoro. He's actually he's quietly the coolest teacher I've ever had.
Yeah.
Dave Santoro is amazing. I love Charlie Lewis. He was my personal teacher. Oh my God, Charlie! There's like nothing this guy can't do on the trumpet, but it's so like blasé to him. Like I can remember I was messing up like the Haydn or Hummel trumpet concerto or something, and he just grabbed my horn and just starts playing triple tones. I'm sitting there like looking at this guy. He's playing cold. Hadn't played the horn in 5 hours. He plays the whole first. I was just sitting there like, God, he just went through this entire movement and then just put my horn down. He's like that. It's like, so I mean, I had some amazing teachers here, man. I mean, really amazing. I remember, it's funny. I saw somebody today was telling me that Hal Crook couldn't stop by. I loved Hal Crook. Oh my God, I was in love with Hal Crook. And I remember one time we got in an argument and it hurt my feelings so bad. Because what happened was I was late for class because there was a a water fight in the dorms. I wasn't a part of the water fight, but I didn't want to get wet. You know what I mean? I don't know how much you know about black people's hair, but it could be a bad, I don't know. I like my hair. I was like, okay, I got a curly bush hat and I had this big afro. You know what I mean? And I walked out to the hall and these guys got guns and they're like on the ground. Like, I'm just like, oh, this is going to be crazy. So I'm like, let me wait them out. So 5 minutes pass, I go out. I still end up getting hit with a water balloon. I'm just like, okay, let me go change my shirt. I go down to class. I'm 2 minutes late and he lays into me. What do you think this is when you get out? And I'm just like, I'm sorry, Al. I love you. Don't you know I love you? I wasn't, but he didn't believe me. He's like, you're lying. There was no water fight. Oh my God, that hurt my feelings so bad. But he's definitely, I think this guy is one of the best teachers in the world, no matter what your discipline is or what type of art you're dealing with. But Hal Crook is an incredible guy. Yeah. So I had some great professors.
How did you evolve as a musician and as a person before and after Berkeley?
Well, I think here's the thing about Berkeley. It was strange for me when I was coming out of high school. Because I got offered a full scholarship to be a part of the first year of Juilliard's Jazz. And actually, I can remember that. I had a conversation with Wynton Marsalis that was really crazy. Actually, kind of blew my mind. I was like, God, this guy. But yeah, so I got offered this full scholarship there and, Oberlin and Eastman and all these different schools. And the only place I wanted to be at since I was like 6 years old, before I even played music, I wanted to go to Berkeley because that's where Uncle Donnie went, And it's funny because when it came time to make the choice, I remember just thinking about a lot of the jazz musicians that you hear about, some of the older guys have an incredibly dogmatic sense of what the music is and should be, and like to claim what the aspirations of the music should be for other people, which is a strange thing to me. And I decided that I didn't want to subject myself to that. And I was kind of into being in a classroom where I could turn around and there could be a kid from, that I met from Fuji Rock, or a kid from Seoul, Korea that might be into hip hop and have like a part in his hair and like hashes in his eyes. Or I could meet a cat from East St. Louis that had a gold tooth and liked to play bebop. That I was into that idea. You meet somebody from the Midwest that's into alternative music and wants to study turntablism and is pissed because there's no program yet, which they have now.
Right.
So I was really interested in being around different types of people because I had an incredibly great experience growing up in New Orleans, but New Orleans when I was a kid was like 87% black. So it was like all damn near one type of person. So I was like excited about getting to go somewhere and meeting people from different cultures and different places, And when I got here, man, it just blew my mind. Because, I noticed I don't really like this word networking. It sounds funny to me. But the thing about Berkeley is like you could sit right in front of the media center and meet 20 people from 20 different cultures in the world and they all want to play music with you. That's an incredibly beautiful thing, man. I've been to all different types of schools where they don't have that type of camaraderie. And even though Berkeley can be overtly competitive in my appraisal of the school, that's an awful word to use too, but at the end of the day, that's how I feel. When I'm thinking about my experiences, there's a lot of competitiveness that I think should go away because everybody's valid. But it's really cool to be able to go to a place, where everybody is generally different, but they still love and care about each other and trying to grow together to build something. Like, I think that's an incredible resource to have. And, I'm glad that I was able to take part in it. And I wish I could actually show the rest of the world that it works, But it definitely changed my life, changed it completely changed my scope.
That's great.
Yeah, Berkeley.
So I have a question now from our contest winner. We put out a contest asking high school musicians out there to come up with a question for you, and the winning person got 2 tickets to the concert tonight.
Oh, nice.
So here's the question. This comes from Pat Kelleher. Dear Christian.
What's his last name again?
Kelleher.
Okay.
Your music is pushing new boundaries in music. Where do you find the inspiration to continuously create fresh music, and how has success changed the way you formulate ideas that you want to put on your records? Thanks, Pat Kelleher.
Oh, thank you, Pat. That's cool. That's a great question. Well, there's more than one way to look at that. I think, as far as finding the inspiration to create new music, I don't really think about it in those terms. Like, I think that every person in this room, you and I think the most unique thing that you've ever experienced is being you. Because I'm sure you don't remember being anybody else. Right?
No.
Okay, so cool. All right. Just, so I think that, I figure out the name. But it's one of those things where I think that if people are willing to admit that their uniqueness is what makes them beautiful. Because this is one of the reasons this is important to me, is because I'm an identical twin. So I think that makes my entire vantage point a little bit different. But people are very unique. And I think one of the things that happens is, as you get older, you try to refine yourself based on standards that other people have set. Mm-hmm. And for me, musically, I've always tried to create music that sounds like what it is that I want to hear. Mm-hmm. So in doing that, I think people on a peripheral level are looking in and say, wow, that's incredibly cutting edge, or it's, like, where does he get the inspiration from? But it's just me trying to be me, or me trying to make music that I think is cool, or that I want to listen to. The strange thing about that is that once you get older, just to deal with the second part of the question, once you get older, you realize that making music purely as a means of catharsis is not healthy. It's just like anything else in life. If you do too much of one thing all the time because it makes you super, super, super happy, then you're probably going to be lacking in other areas. Mm-hmm. And so that was hard for me to say that, okay, well, I'm going to have to let go of some of my ideas of what I want to hear, and play some things that, at other points in my life I might have said, oh, man, I hate that. I don't like how that sounds. The funny thing is that when you force things on yourself, you learn to love different aspects of them, and you find things that you never would have found if you would have stayed close to it. So, I think there's 2 parts to that. One, you are the most unique thing you've ever experienced is being you. So covet that, because, also because of my experiences, like I said, I grew up in New Orleans. I've seen a lot of rough stuff. I've seen people get shot and killed right there, and seen the life come out of a human being. And when you see stuff like that, you realize that you could blink and miss it, and life could be over. So at the end of the day, you may as well covet the opportunity that you have to get to know yourself. And if you're thinking about that when you're making music, then your music's probably going to be unique because you are. But as far as like the success and stuff, like I don't really see. I appreciate that. I think also on a peripheral level, people look at, they say, okay, this guy's been on the Downbeat cover a lot of times and sells a whole bunch of records, but that type of stuff isn't what defines someone being successful. I actually, like I said, I appreciate having the opportunity to fail and learn from that. And I think most people that people would say are successful, you'd probably find that they generally fail a lot. It's about putting yourself in a position, and that failing eventually leads to other people thinking that it's a success. But my life is a constant stream of failures that I've strung together, and the failures make me happy because it means I'm living. Yeah.
And mixed amongst the failures are some pretty sweet moments.
Yeah, there's some pretty sweet moments. Yeah, there's some pretty sweet moments.
So I got one more question for you.
You can have 10 more. It's cool.
we music lovers like to make lists.
Sure.
Favorite 5 albums, favorite 5 artists. What would be the 5 albums you would recommend that a young musician should listen to? And you could go longer than 5 if you want to, but see if you can pick 5. Really putting you on the spot.
Oh man, that's really really hard. I'm that's really that. First off, it's incredibly hard.
Sorry about
to do.
that.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay. I can only build this from my experiences and albums that have helped me a lot.
Yeah.
There's an album. This is hard because it's also going to be like, I don't want it to be too trumpet centric, but I will do 1 or 2 trumpet players.
It's okay.
There's an album called Clifford Brown, The Beginning and the End. Have you heard this album?
Yes.
This album is amazing. This was the first album I ever had. And I can remember just listening to him play I Come From Jamaica. Jamaica is my home, and Donnelly. And I think that this is it's just pure bebop. It's killing. So I think for young trumpet players especially, if you can find Clifford Brown, The Beginning and the End, and learn all of the solos on that record, then you'll have a pretty good starting point. Another album that affected me a lot actually is an album that my uncle made called Indian Blues. Which is, I was reading an article a couple weeks back where in a paper called the Louisiana Weekly, they were saying that this album is like the seminal, like the paramount record from Louisiana, because you have traditional jazz elements, you have the Afro-Native American cultural elements into it, rhythm and blues elements, so it's like great album. I used to listen to that album night in and night out, and you can hear actually a lot of the songs actually have rhythms that are essentially West African rhythms. They may be like the rhythm of Obatala, like mixed with like rhythms from like the Choctaw Cree Nation. So it's a very interesting rhythmic palette. But with Donald playing these incredibly sophisticated bebop lines over, with guys like Dr. John on it. So that album is a really killing album. There's an album by Saul Williams. Actually, that I've always loved. This album is called The Amphitheus Rockstar. Saul Williams is like probably the most prolific slam poet. He lives in Paris now, but this guy is super bad. And actually, the thing about the uniqueness of everyone is something that I really learned from him and got from him, having the chance to hang out with him and talk to him. So that album is great. I also think, what's a good one? This is really hard, man. But I want to give some unique albums. I want to say I love Supreme, just because for me, man, whenever I hear that album, I get goosebumps. Like I'm like in a constant state of goosebumps when I listen to it. But we'll leave that off the list because you've heard of it already. Let's see what else we want to do. I'm sorry, man.
That's okay.
I'm really calculating.
You played a Radiohead cover on your last
album. I love Radiohead. Yeah, it was Tom York's song, The Eraser.
Right, actually, yeah.
So yeah, anything. Actually, you know what? They've been getting a lot of flack about the King of Limbs album. I love that album. I think this is incredibly sophisticated music that they're making, and they're amazing. So actually, we can add that one to the list because I think that album's amazing. And damn near everyone I talk to, they're like, I'm not really into it, but I love it. I think if you actually give a listen to, it's one of those albums that you come back to 10 years and say, what the hell was I thinking? So Radiohead, The King of Limbs, and let's see, what else? Who else are some of my contemporaries? I don't want to. You know what? Robert Glasper has an album that's going to be coming out that's really, really cool. I actually just saw a YouTube clip of him playing Twice. And I love Robert because the interesting thing is, like, all of the young guys say that I'm an old man now. Because, like you said, like, I've been making records for a long time. And, been on the road since I was, like, 12 or 13 years old. Maybe 14 or 15 is the first time I went out with McCoy Tyner's band. So, like, I was hitting early. And so all of the guys my age act like I'm an old man, But I can remember Robert would be out there, too. So I'd be, like, 15, and he was, like, 16 on the road with, like, Russell Malone's band. And that was, excuse me, I'm sorry, y'all. This phone is going in. Excuse me, sorry. But yeah, I can remember seeing him on the road all the time. And I remember an argument he got into actually with my uncle, Donald Harrison and Russell Malone, about innovators in jazz, where they ended up kind of scolding him and saying that, what do you think? The only thing you need to be an innovator is like, okay, well, I'll turn a glass upside down on the piano and that makes me innovative. But I remember that he was articulating his point to them very clearly, and I actually agreed with him. I remember thinking, this is the first time that I met him, that, wow, this guy is going to be amazing because of his mind. And to see him doing so well, it just is really an amazing thing, and I think he's a super, super awesome guy. And
That's
it's
great.
cool because we've been holding down the fort for a long time, but now there's finally another generation of guys in our age range that are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like just Robert and I for a long time.
You were the only old guys out there.
Well, yeah, right. We're the only young old guys, right? So, but I love his music. So look out for that album. I think that's probably going to change worlds.
That's great. It sounds like a great list. You could probably list some more, but we'll let you go now. Thank you so much for that. Christian Scott, thank you so much for talking to us. Christian Scott is a 2004 graduate of Berklee College of Music, and his latest album is called Yesterday You Said Tomorrow.
Yep.
Learn more about Christian Scott and other groundbreaking musicians at berkeleyjazz.org and berkeley.edu. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Hochschild.